Right, so this is a short video that I'm doing to help anyone who is looking at using a supplemental nursing system, or anyone who's supporting someone using an SNS. The one I use is called the Medela, which is probably the most commonly available SNS outside of the United States. By the way, apologies for planes, I live right by the airport. So I'm going to run you through a few things that I've picked up about using it. Now, I just want to make clear, this is not any official way of using it, this is just my way of using it. So the first thing, the actual system, it comes in a few parts. So you've got the bottle, which you can use to put express breast milk or formula, water, whatever you want in there. It comes with a cord that goes around your neck, it's very attractive, and then the business end, it's got these little spidery things with these little capillary tubes, and basically the cap of the bottle. Now you'll notice, and I'm showing you this because I won't be able to zoom in on and show you later, this little cap has got two little cutouts, and the top of the capillary tubes has got, you probably won't be able to see it, two little square bits that match basically that and sit in that. So later on, when I'm talking about making sure that the things in the cap are lined up, that's what I'm talking about. You can get several different sizes of these capillary tubes. My first tip is always to start with this one, which is the finest one, because one thing I found with my elder daughter is once they've got used to a certain flow, it's really difficult to then try and get them used to a lesser flow. So if you're using this with a view to it being a short-term measure, or you want to come off in the future, my first suggestion is that you use the finest one. You know, don't make promises that your body can't live up to. So the first thing is putting this thing together. So obviously this is empty at the moment, but you would put your milk in here, and then you need to put the cap together. So you put the top of the capillary tubes, just seat it on that little bit of yellow plastic, and then you just poke it through the top of this cap. Now, these capillary tubes are the weak link in the SNS. So my second big tip is always make sure you have spares. They're not super easy to get hold of. You can't walk into, you know, a high street shop and get them. You need to pretty much order them online, which means that, you know, if they go wrong, which has happened to me on a Friday night, you're kind of screwed until Monday, and babies don't like waiting a whole weekend for a feed. So yeah, my second tip is make sure you've got some of these spare. Or alternatively, we have had to jerry rig it with by cutting one of the tubes off and putting a blob of super glue to seal it, because where they go is here, the join between the tube and the top bit. There's like it's like a little joint, and that's where they go. My biggest tip with these is, if you want them to last, and they normally last about 6 weeks, something nobody told me and I wish they had, because I would have planned ahead a bit better. My biggest tip is make sure you do everything you can not to put strain on them. So the first thing you're going to do is put the lid on the bottle. I'm making a real hash of this because I keep looking it up. It's not normally so difficult to do, trust me. Apologies for the flies. So the first thing you're going to do is simply, you know, imagine you've got milk in here. You're just going to screw this on. I normally kind of just hold that there so they get wrapped around, because they're dreadful for that. So yeah, as I was saying, make sure that everything's lined up in there so that the cutouts have got the relief bits sitting firmly in. Sometimes what happens is, because it's all loose in there, it's not, you know, attached to the bits aren't attached to each other, is sometimes that the end of the capillary tubes catches as you're tightening it, and it can end up not quite seated properly. And what will happen is, as soon as you do that, you'll get a gush coming out of there, which is great when you've got a screaming baby. So the first thing you need to do, you know, like I said, imagining this is full of milk, is you need to lock off both the tubes. Now these are drip tubes, there's no valves, there's no resistance. So if you don't lock them off, you're just going to get a wet lap. So what I do is just first of all put both tubes through just one of these, and what I make sure I do is that I don't know if you can see that, but just leave a little bit of slack, so don't pull it tight and do it, because again that puts a lot of strain on that weak joint, and that's how you end up breaking capillary tubes. And then the second thing I do is, because you get to, normally I only use one for a feed, even when I'm doing both sides, because it's easier just to take it off and move it than it is to faff around. So, and just for speed as well, I normally only use one. So what I do with the other one, and again this is just me, it's not a an officially sanctioned thing or anything, is I just wrap it loosely around the bottle and again lock it through one of the little locking slots. So essentially what you've got is one tube just kind of wrapped around there. It means if you do need to release it, for whatever reason, it's a lot easier than if you've wrapped it around the top and all the rest of it. So just a little trick there. So yeah, then you're going to put the cord on. I mean, most of the time the cord stays attached on mine, apart from when I'm washing it out, because otherwise you end up with a soggy cord around your neck, which is no fun. So you've got one tube that's just loosely locked off and the other tube that's wrapped around. What you're going to do then, and by the way this is the U-rated version, so you don't need to worry that I'm going to expose anything, is just tie it around your neck. Normally when you're out and about, that's a bit of an interesting time. You might need to get someone else to hold the baby, because it's interesting trying to balance a child on your lap while you're doing this, and you end up having to catch them, and it's not worth it. So what you do then is you take your tape, and this micropore tape, my big advice with it is use it sparingly and make sure you take it off as soon as you finish with it, because otherwise with my older daughter I ended up with some really nasty red patches that took ages to go away, because when you're wearing it day in day out several times a day, it can really irritate your skin. So just take yourself off a little bit of tape. I normally kind of only use that much. And the other thing to say about these tubes is that because they're quite silky, I think they're silicone, they're quite silky, so the tape sometimes doesn't grip properly, which means that if you are feeding happily away and your baby starts suddenly gagging, it might be that the tube is slipping through the tape as you're feeding and actually basically just ending up in her stomach. So my little trick for avoiding that is to put the tube on a corner. So basically, hang on, there we go, there you go. So it's coming in at the top and coming out at the side, just simply because it makes it harder for it to slip if it's trying to slip around a corner. I don't know if it works or not, but it seems to work for me. So what I do when I'm out and about and I'm wearing a nursing top is literally just pull my top forward and place the tube where I need it to be. So I'll do it on the outside here. So what you would do is just put it there, and what you want is the tube to be slightly to come out slightly further than the end of your nipple, not loads, otherwise they'll start gagging again. But if it's not past the end of your nipple, and don't forget your nipple will extend slightly as you're feeding, they basically won't get the flow going and they'll just get really frustrated. So when I'm out and about, it just goes on, and then you just unclip your nursing top, stick your baby on, and away you go. My other big tip, and my other reservation with using this was because we co-sleep, was how I was going to feed at night, because especially in the UK in winter, no one wants to get out of bed and feed a baby in the freezing cold when you're nicely snuggled up, and I kind of worried that using this I'd lose the ability to feed lying down. So the way I got around it was, okay, you're going to have to use your imagination here a little bit. So imagine this is my bed and you're kind of looking down at me. So if you lie down, and you normally feed on your side rather than the other way, so if you're lying down and you put your arm along the bottom of the pillow and up, this is going to be fun to try and demonstrate. So you're kind of lying like that, so your baby's sort of here, ready to latch on and feed. If you manage it right, what you do is you sling the cord over the back just for a little bit of stability, and you can basically balance it on your arm like that. So obviously you're not upright, you're lying back. But because of the angle of the pillow, and your arm is generally lower than a pillow, it's thinner than a pillow, what you end up with is basically the medulla kind of sits at about that angle, kind of balanced on your arm, and you can feed lying down, which is awesome. So yeah, you just lie there, and then the last step with all of it is you just unclip the loosely clipped off tube, and away you go. Keep an eye on your baby, because as soon as you think that they're going to stop feeding, like I said, don't forget it's just a drip tube, so you need to kind of be on the case to lock it back off again, otherwise you end up with nice big patches, or if you fall asleep at night, which I have to admit I have done before. My baby's been fine, she's a little bit older, she just kind of pulls off and goes back to sleep. This thing keeps dripping and I wake up in a puddle, so it's worth trying not to fall asleep or take your eye off the ball when you're using one of these. So anyway, that's just a few of my little kind of user tips from having used this for a few years. If there is anything else that I can help you with, or if there is a desire, if people contact me, what I will happily do is do a less U-rated version where I actually show you putting the nurser on and nursing my daughter, so that you can see how it actually works. But I hope it's been helpful. Get in touch and let me know any feedback or anything else you want to see, because I know there's not that much info out there about using these, but they are an amazing source of help when you need a bit of extra for breastfeeding. So good luck, and if there's anything else you need, let me know.